Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the continuation of coloring the Moon Gazer Dragon. We first began coloring this on Sunday's live stream. It is, as of this particular moment, it is Thursday night at about 10 o'clock. I do apologize that I haven't gotten a video out sooner. Hopefully this will post sometime on Friday. Where I left this on Sunday, those of you with an eagle eye are probably going to recognize that this is not even the same one. I have in fact redone the entire thing up to the point where we left it, and this is why. This was my first version. We left it somewhere in the middle of here, with this part looking very much like that, only not quite. And then I started to do the border and completely messed it up. So we pretend that one doesn't exist. And I spent, the reason why you're not getting this video on Tuesday or Wednesday is because it took me that long to bring it back from the brink of destruction. Because that other one, that's going in the round pile. At any rate, let me tell you a couple of the things that I have done. Oh, by the way, if you are new to my channel and do not know me, my name is Christine Aldridge. I do draw coloring books for a living. This happens to be from one of my books, or actually one of my upcoming books about dragons. The new book will actually, I had hoped to have it out by August. It's looking like it's going to be October, which is good, just in time for Christmas. But it will be dragons and other things. Of course, I am most well known for drawing art that looks like the art. Now, wait a minute, of course. You know I can't let it go by without showing you my books. These are actually, I have 11 books published. These are the most recent two, which are the best of, which is Sporty Fan Favorites. And this is 40 of, there's 5 each from my first 8 books. And we've been coloring in them, in this as we go along. And there are just all sorts of beautiful designs from my first 8 books, and there they are on the back cover. There's the cover of all 8 of them. There is a link to my Amazon author page for various countries, including the United States, down below. In addition, all of the books are available in PDF form in my Etsy shop, and those are, there's a link to that as well. The most popular book that I have ever released to date continues to be Mandalas. Folks just love this book, so I'll give you just a quick look at some of the things. This is a work in progress that I am working on for a project that we're doing with Prismacolors, and there are a few of my works in progress here. This is the image from the front cover. And these contain various, or this book contains various mandalas that I've drawn over the years. Here are 2 that I worked on and colored. This one is colored pencils, and this one is CLAart markers. And then I used the Zier glitter gel pens. And I think that there is one more in here. There's the one that I just did for a 3-color limited palette project that we did. And I did this with the deli colored pencils, which I will probably be showing you some of today. So please do check those out and consider them for your own library, once again, both in print and PDF form. If you like what you see on my channel, please do consider liking and subscribing, and ring the bell so that you are notified whenever I post a new video. Also, if you would like, please consider following me on social media. I am at Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on Twitter. So with all of the official duties now taken care of, let that Twitter run. And okay, you saw that. Everything is CLAldridge art. And we'll go back to the main screen. Let me zoom you down so that you can see what I have done on this border. And while I was at the redo of this is my Moon Gazer Dragon, by the way. It can be found in the new art, the new art section. It's an Etsy exclusive until I make a print book. So right now, all the drawings for the next book are in the new art category in my Etsy shop. Now I used this metallic sequin black glitter paint made by Folk Art. I believe, or it's actually made by Plaid under the Folk Art brand. And it's a metallic finish, acrylic paint, and it is full on black. And I like it because it gives a beautiful satiny sheen, which is what I wanted. I wanted this frame to look like leather. And so that is why I colored it that color. Ultimately, even though this was a sad, it was a sad happenstance. What happened was that I had sharpened my mustard-colored pencil, Inktense. And of course, whenever you sharpen Inktense, anything that you are sharpening away is pure pigment. So I gathered up the pigment, and there was more than plenty to do this border frame. But when I started to do the flowers, it occurred to me that up close and personal, this gold was not going to be a very good match for the colors that I'd used in the center. It has to do with the fact that this is a mustard yellow gold, and this is much more of a sunshiny gold. And so the two colors were not going to play very well really together close up. So I tried to make it gray by putting some gray over the gold, and that didn't work. And then I went completely nuts and tried to put some blue-green over it. And by the time that I got to that point, I was like, let's toss it and start again. Because I have a vision for how I want the frame to look, and this isn't it. So I redid it, and as long as I was redoing it, I did in fact make some changes. I made the center spike, or the center belly, more like I was looking to make it on Sunday but kept failing. And I still want to add some blue-green in as my shading, and so we can start by doing that. Some of the things that I also did is I used a creamier color of yellow for the moon. I think the moon in this one was a little too yellow, and so I changed it to a much creamier yellow. And and I left moon glow around the edges of his wings. That's the other sort of major change that I did. And I changed the base of the sunflower that he's sitting on to a darker brown. But other than that, I used almost all the same colors, certainly the same sky, the same fade down to the purples, to the mauve, and then finally to the blue. And I will, as soon as I'm ready, I will go over the outline of the moon with a white uniball. Now I have, or something like that. This just happens to be the white that I have. I also have calligraphy ink, which I could use a glass pen or uh, one of these. Actually, I don't know where it went. I have one of those ball things that you can use to drop drops on, but it's usually on my desk. I don't know where it is. It's probably in the drawer. So anyway, let's get started on this. And thank you for joining me today. Okay, now one of the things that I do want to do is I want to do a little tweaking on my dragon. Now, on Sunday, I used the mallard green, and I really like that. That's what color this is. This is the mallard green. I think that what made it muddy on Sunday is that I was using it over, I had laid down a base of CLAart marker, and I had also put down another base of a sort of an olivey green. And I think that is why I had such difficulty getting my scales to come out in any way that I particularly liked. So this time I went totally with the mallard green, and I only used the CLAart marker for what I would consider moonlight highlights. So I just used it a little bit down the neckline, along the edges of the shoulders, outsides of the legs, and on the wings. And then, of course, on the head, because his horns and things like that are, I'm thinking that I might do glitter pen. And then, of course, I also had done his nails in black, and I think that I want to make those glittery as well. But before we get there, let's add some blue-green into his body, because right now he's still a little too yellow-green to go well with the blue-green that I used here. So I am just going to add just a hint or a tinge of this blue-green. And I'm going to do it in sort of long strokes, not really laying down a lot of pigment, just a little bit and just a hint. I only want it to, be a suggestion and not necessarily a identifiable color. Does that make any sense? So a suggestion that he's kind of a color changer, which is something that I really like in my dragons. I like my dragons to be sort of color changers. So I'm just adding a hint of it on top of the greens that I've already put down. Now I also, where I had used sort of an olive green on Sunday's version, I did switch it over, and I'm using more of a spring green and a felt green, which gets it up and away from that olivey tone. because I think it's just a little prettier. No, I mean, the olive greens are beautiful, but I think that the, you know, the that the yellower greens are prettier for this particular purpose. So once again, just a hint of, I just want a hint of him being blue-green. I don't want to lose the yellow-green altogether. And once this is activated with water and dries, it should give the effect that I'm looking for. And of course your dragon could be whatever color that you would like it to be. You know, the world is populated by the fantasy world is populated by dragons of every color. So if your dragon is fuchsia, then make him fuchsia. Or pink, or purple, or black, or white, or gray, whatever color your dragon is. All right, now I do want to do a little bit more tweaking on his face. Now I did put down the anise color CLAart marker, which is it's basically a very pale yellow green, and then I just want to give a hint of color to his face. Now I'm being very, very light with this Inktense pencil because Inktense is so it's strong colors, and if you lay down a lot of pigment, you lose a lot of the subtlety. So I'm just being very, very, very light with a little bit of that, trying to keep it away from the snout of his nose, because I want that ultimately to be the lightest part of his face, because that is what's capturing or catching the moonlight. And so that was the spring green, and this is just a hint of the felt green. And I'm going to put that right down here, kind of on the edge of his mouth. Now, of course, my dragons very rarely roar. They're quiet dragons. They like to sneak up on you. And so now I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue-green here on his face. Not a lot, just a very tiny bit. I had also done his eye in a very pale blue, and pale blue, in blue here, and I think it's too dark. So I may yet stick with that blue. I don't know. We shall see, but I get a redo over here. So I've got my smallest water brush, and I'm going to start with his face because that is, of course, what I want to do. I'm going to start on the lower chin, just work that in, and then I want to keep that dark around his mouth right up near his mouth, you know, near where his lips would be. I don't really want to spread that down. You see how it picks up the blue-green, and I'm just leaving the very hint of the anise yellow up there at the top to be the moon glow. Excuse me. Now I should say that I did film the entire redo. But as I was watching it back, I thought, well, all I really did was just take it right back to where it was when we left it on Sunday. So why do that and make you watch it again, considering that all that part is already there? So I started it over again. Okay, and so now we can start on this. I don't like that little patchy spot right there, but see if I can fix that. Never anything that can't be fixed. And if you can't find a way to fix it, redo it. So how is everybody? I hope you are all having a wonderful week. By the time that you probably get to watch this, your week will already be over, so I hope you had a good one. We had some wonderful events this week. It was Heather's birthday at Color and Felt on Wednesday, so happy birthday to Heather. And of course we had, because celebrations can never happen without sometimes tragedies. We had a couple of beloved members of our coloring community lose their, their boon companions, their pets and family members, because that's how we think of our pets. So my heart goes out to Connie and to Melody, who both lost loved ones this last week. Here in Virginia, we've had some pretty epic rainstorms. I found my our trash day is Wednesdays, and I went out this afternoon, Thursday afternoon, to retrieve the trash can because I had forgotten about it, and I found it half full of water and sitting on the precipice of the storm drain. So apparently it rained and I missed it. I mean, I certainly heard it raining, but it never occurred to me that the trash can was still out there. I think I have a phobia after nearly getting struck down by lightning last week. It is that time of year. So this is really just adding in just a little extra layer of billowiness. Is that a word? Billowiness? To the wings. And bringing them more into line with the color of the body. Coloring with Inktense is often more impressionistic than it is detail-oriented, which is a style that appeals to me. I like impressionistic coloring. As a matter of fact, I saw a fabulous art channel, or not art channel, but IG account, and I'll look up and see if I can find the address for a future video, or even maybe for this video. And the guy does these beautiful impressionistic landscapes in beautiful bright colors. And I liked the style of it and was thinking that it would adapt very well to a coloring page. So I have to see if I can find something to work on and use that particular style. It's something akin to how I liked the way that the cover on Nadia Vasilkova's book, if you watched that video, that she was my guest artist last month. And this month, the guest artist will be Tatiana Bogima, and I've even already printed the image that I'm going to color. So I got printer ink in on Monday, so I was thrilled with that. Or maybe it was Saturday. Geez, I don't remember now. It was this week, I know. And I'd been out for a very long time, so it was like fabulous to finally have some printer ink. And I owe that to all of you wonderful people who have been so kind in buying my latest book. And so keep those sales coming. Visit my Etsy shop. And for those of you who might already have a lot of my art, or maybe have as much as you need, but still would like to support the channel, there is always my PayPal tip jar. I don't mention it very often, but it is certainly there, and artists, of course, whether they be folks who play for you in the subways of New York, or color for you on YouTube, are always in need of cash. If you want to make money, art is not the way to do it. And which I always think is hilarious. Well, or maybe not hilarious, but certainly the way it is. And it's been true forever. Okay, so that is the next, layer on our dragon, and I can't really go any further with it than that. I do want to bump up the tips, just the very tips of the yellow flower. So I am going to step all the way into the mid vermilion and see if I can just add a little bit of extra color down here on the tips of the flower. I'm pretty happy with the color of the flowers, although I may bump it just a tad to a slightly richer yellow. We'll have to, because one of the things I want to do is to sort of add a bit of a maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll just add this bit of a streak of a darker color like the mid vermilion in there. I just think it needs a little more visual interest. Otherwise, they're just kind of, you know, blah. And I am the boss of my coloring book, as you are the boss of yours. So if you had any of my books and wanted to do your own experimenting, that would be perfectly fine by me. See, now I'm just only activating those little sections. I'm not trying to spread it around. I'm just activating the pigment right where I laid it down. And I like that effect. Sort of softening up some of those edges. Sometimes it's just a little touch like that that can make the difference between, you know, just sort of the ordinary and something very cool. And I am just going to work down that tip. Notice I'm coming from the other direction. And that just helps to just pick up a tiny amount. Oops, cat hair alert. A tiny amount of that pigment, so you're not working it so far up the tip of the flower. Let me fold that down so that I can get another ½ inch of space there. And I'm dabbing off quite frequently on my this doohickey. I believe that's a paper towel on a plate. That's today's doohickey. We had comments on what is your favorite phrase for something you can't remember the name of, and so you substitute a word. Whatchamacallit, thingamabob, doohickey. There were some very creative ones. And so let me ask you a question. I've been watching the numbers, and it seems that the long video that I just put up a couple days ago, it's over 2 hours. It's a pre-record, and it was on the color palette that I did, the gray, the pink, and the turquoise. And it seems that that is getting a lot of views. And I think it is because people like those longer videos. What do you think? And will you please tell me what you think in the comments section below? Because I've noticed that if I do the one part, you know, the 1 hour videos, people like them, but they're not getting the kind of watch numbers that the 2 hour videos are getting, or the long streams, excuse me. So if y'all want longer videos, I can do that. That is something I can do. And I like it. I like this flower. Okay. So now it's just got the, the slightly elevated interest of the don't want to overwork those. And of course, hand painting the acrylic paint onto this around all of these little things. I was by no means perfect with it, so depending upon what color I colored these, I may have to hit them with a little glitter gel pen or something that will show up over the acrylic paint. Alrighty. And then, of course, I'd done this metal frame. I did this with the pencils. All the grays, like the grays in the moon and the gray around the frame, I did with the deli-colored pencils and not the Inktense. So just as a matter of disclosure. Okay, now on to the next. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is now Friday afternoon, somewhat deep in the afternoon, about 3:07, so I am behind as usual. However, I was able last night before I went to bed to work out how I wanted to do the silver flowers. And this is a single pencil, and it is the Payne's Gray of the Inktense. And all I did was basically outline the flower. Zoom me down here. And so I just applied a little bit there close in, and then just came up each of the petal sides of each flower just a little bit. Or maybe just a bit more in there. And the key to this one is really in the way that you use your water brush. Fortunately, I had a chance to practice on this one. I got it sort of right. Right within the margins of error, that is, and that I set for myself. And today, wait, it's been a busy video day, hasn't it? I've watched the Art Spirits, Rebecca at the Art Spirits, caught my attention with a video she just posted about fixing a watercolor painting that she had done that she wasn't happy with, and she fixed it with gouache, and it turned out so lovely. And then Lori over at A Colorful World captured my attention, or Color My World, sorry, captured my attention with a video called Making a Point, where she shows you some of the things that she loves and doesn't love about various pencil sharpeners, and then she also colors in answer to a subscriber question. She colors a bone skull as if it is old bone, and boy, that was fun to watch, especially considering that Halloween will be coming up and we've got all of those books out there with you know, bones, old bones in them. Turning the page so that I can continue on. I've got it sort of balanced up on my Derwent Inktense tin as I'm making this turn. I love this Payne's gray. It is such a pretty gray. You know, it's got a lovely sort of blue pewtery tinge to it. Oh, another one of the channels, and I don't know if I actually talked about it. I think I did talk about it, but I think it was in one of the sections of the redo of this, and I discarded the I discarded all of those. But I have discovered a new channel. It's actually by a Russian couple, a new art channel, and it is called Positive Couple. I believe 2 words, and I grabbed some links, and I will put them into the description below this video before I upload it. And in the one that captured my attention, the thumbnail that captured my attention, was this beautiful tabletop, and all you saw was a round circle of clear, it looked like glass, that was made of beautiful flowers that were done in the style of a mandala or a mandala. And so I clicked on the thumbnail to watch it, and it turns out that what they make is art furniture, or furniture that is in itself a piece of art. And they hand make it, every single piece. I mean, literally, if they do a 3D wooden sculpture, he shows you that he stacked up wood and glued it together, and then cut it out, and you know, did all of the, and then put it on a lathe and hand worked it with tools. But their videos are done in such a way to where they're quick. I mean, most of them are only about 20 minutes, and you get to watch from start to finish as they make each piece. And it's not really sped up or anything like that. It's just a really well-produced video. And but ultimately, you know, the artistic parts are in the hand work that they do, which is incredible. Russian craftsmanship, you know, when it comes to artistic endeavors, is absolutely beautiful. Think of the work that you know, that went into Fabergé eggs, and that is the kind of level of workmanship that we are talking about in these art pieces. And so I can really recommend the channel. And the funny thing about it is I don't always like the, you know, the piece of furniture that they ultimately create, but because I prefer different colors than the ones that they often select, but I just respect the heck out of the workmanship in it, and it is just amazing. Really amazing. So just like, and for the same reasons that Dee Dee recommended Curiosity Ink to us, and I recommended Fiona Art to you guys, I am going to recommend Positive Couple to you as well, because I just really think, I mean, they've got, like, I don't know, there's 3-point-something million subscribers, I think. Maybe it's 35,000 or 350,000. It's a lot, let's put it that way. And but their videos are fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I've watched a half a dozen of them so far, And I've always been sort of fascinated with resin pouring anyway. And I just think it's cool. So I just put a line right down the center of the vein in each of the leaves. And now I'm also going to do the same thing on this one. With just a little bit more down in the corner here. And I'm not going to worry about the stems just yet. I just want to show you the brushwork on how to do this part. So, the first thing that I'm going to start on this big one here. And hopefully I've got an angle to where you can actually see it. I'm trying to push stuff up so I can get this centered under the camera for you. I start by wetting the part that isn't colored, that's got no pigment, and then I'm just getting a tiny bit of the pigment, and you see how that sort of washed up into that lighter area? So now I'm going to stay away from that lighter area. I just brushed my color pigment off my pen so I can go and sort of smooth that back a little bit. I want to leave that area as light as possible so that it gives this effect when it dries. So that it looks like pewter. And then I'll be adding just a tiny bit of highlight with white, with the white Uniball, so that it looks actually, you know, like it's got a little bit of a shine. But I'll end up also dulling that down because I want it to look like pewter and not like silver. Maybe. We'll see how I feel about it after we get the gold in. So once again, just brushing back a little bit of the white, a little bit from that area, and then just continuing on around. So with no color on the brush, wetting down that area, you know, the uncolored area, and then just letting the fact that the tip of the brush touched the dark to fill in that area up there and brush it back. So that the darkest shade is down here around the base. So no color at all. Now I've got just a tad of the color so that that's a very light petal. It's a big one, so it would be the lightest of all. And same thing, I'm just, you know, I just barely touched the gray and just letting it float up into that area. And so when it dries, it will do just exactly what these did, and it'll leave that ridge of highlight. And if you see that you have a fair amount of pigment on your brush, just brush it off on your paper towel. go. And oh boy, there have been some pretty pictures from my mandala book being colored and posted on Instagram this week. So thank you to all of you who do that and who tag me. That is so very kind of you. I try to get by all of them and leave a comment and a thank you for choosing to own my coloring books. And there we go. So that is the first one. Now, as far as these leaves go, I did pretty much the same thing. I just simply wet down the one side and then barely touch the dark, and it's enough to just give a hint of the gray. And I'll do it one more time over here, and see how I just am touching a little bit of the gray and then pulling it out, leaving the darkest there in the vein. And hopefully that will be smooth when I finish. And so I'll do it again on this one. This is the outer. And just by getting close to it, I was able to get enough gray, down here at the tip, to make that look like a silver finish. Once again, wetting down the white part, then touching the gray, and bringing up just a tiny bit of that pigment before going over the darker gray for the seam. Now I've got a little bit of the pigment left, and I started to pull it up onto this stem. So you don't necessarily have to have extra pigment on your brush to be able to get areas that you want them to be very, very light. So now I'll do this side. I'll do this one flower section on screen, and then I'll do the other two off. And then we'll do the gold, and then come back and do the final touches on the dragon, or the interior of the picture. And then hopefully this one will be done just in time to start a new one on Sunday. It can be a little tougher to keep the space light on these smaller flowers, so I'm just liberally dabbing off the brush. And I really am only stroking pretty much in one direction with this. I just find that that ends up making it easier to control where the color goes. especially in keeping those outer areas light. So the next video is going to be another color palette video of experimenting with different 3-color or no more than 4-color palettes. I'm finding those to be very, very popular and very helpful to a lot of people. So it's certainly helpful to me because as a, I can draw, but I am new to coloring, so for me, I am still learning with every experiment that I do, or with every project that I color. And so it's very helpful to to be able to play with different color palettes and learn how colors work together or work well together. Okay, now I do need to add just a little bit of extra on this stem. So I am going to take my water brush. It doesn't need to have a lot of water on it or anything like that, and I am going to swipe it once along the edge of that pencil. And that is it. That's all it takes for that. If you swipe it more than once, you're going to end up with too dark of a color, and that will dry very light and look very nice. So that is a trial and error. That is a trial and error tip. Okay, now I'm going to go with this one. And that one almost colored itself. The pigment just sort of ran along the edge, which is what I wanted. I want it to just come out very softly so that the edge of this is the lightest. And that looks very pretty. Do the same thing with this leaf, where I barely touched it. Putting down the white, touching the gray, and then just bringing that bit of softening to that edge, and just letting it bleed right into the light. Excuse me. And see if I can do this the opposite way too. So I don't have to keep turning the page. See, just as it touches the lower part down there, it pulls enough pigment off the brush or off the paper to be able to successfully color the entire lightest part. So brushing toward the center, and it just adds just that amount that you want. I really love these water brushes. These are just the sort of cheapo, well, they're very generic Aqua Pro brushes is what the marketing name is called. Put out by a company called Art Supply Company. They were inexpensive, but they work really well. And they only spit, you know, they don't, they flow water, they don't drip it. Of course, I rarely squeeze them because you don't need to. They've got a valve inside. You're really only squeezing if you want to clean the brush or if you are like working on a palette and you're trying to thin something down. Then you want to squeeze the extra water. But otherwise you just let the brush do the work. Now, that said, there is one of these 3 brushes that really you kind of have to get wet every once in a while because it does have a tendency to, the water flow in it isn't very much for the size of the brush that it is. So absorbent paper will soak up the water and make it hard to move your pigment. So that one, when I use it, I'm usually covering a bigger area, and I'm usually doing it with a wash anyway. So the fact that it requires a squeeze once in a while is fine. Okay, and once again, just one little stroke. And that's more than plenty of pigment to do that stem. And see, it'll dry light just like this one. So with that done, turn this and pull back a little bit so you can see it's still a little wet, but you can start to get the idea of how it will look around the edge. And I will finish these up and I'll be right back. Ta-da! And this is how it looks now after I have used just this single Payne's Gray pencil to do all of the silver flowers around the edge. So I am now ready to do the gold, which once again, I really, even though this was an accident, I really like the way that the gold works around the, around just the outer edge of the one that I made the mistake on. So hopefully I will not regret, keeping my fingers crossed here, that I don't regret it, that I will do the same thing with the mustard colored pencil. But I do want to check one thing beforehand, and that is just making sure that my mustard is the lighter shade from the amber. And if you look over here, the reason why I'm not going to use a yellow is because all of the yellows are really way too bright for this. The only one that might work is this golden yellow, and even that I think is a little too bright. I could choose the Sicilian yellow, but overall I'm really much happier with, I think, the muted shade of that gold. Yeah, I think I really am. All right, so here goes on this. Zoom you back down. Yeah, I am really liking those silver flowers done with that Payne's Gray. Alright, so I'm just going to put a little bit not a lot. I'm going to keep it light for the time being by just putting down a light layer of the gold pigment. And I'm going to test this coming out of this first curve. So that way, if I am making a mistake, hopefully it will reveal itself here and not after I've done the whole thing in a bad color. Just making it nice and even. Just sort of avoiding those. I don't have to because I'm going to use glitter gel or glitter pen on them, those little embellishment dots. But let's see how we do. I just want to see how much pigment I should be putting down. I think that I might want to put a little bit more on. I'm going to try this one next and see if adding just a little more pigment will make me like it better, because I can always add more to this one. So, whoops. Got too many tins of things up there in an area where you can't see them. But they're up there in danger of getting knocked off the back of the desk. So now I'm using just a medium pressure instead of that super light. And just to see if that makes it a little closer to how I want the finish to be. See how nice and sharp that pencil was? But I had to sharpen away an awful lot of pigment to get it to that point. And I don't mind losing that pigment because it informed me on the first one of what not to do. So it served its purpose. Yeah, I think I like the darker better. So now I know how to proceed. I will proceed all the way around. And I am also going to put a base coat of this color, but just a light one, down on all of these petals as well. So I'm going to do the same kind of monotone type thing to start out with that I did on the gray, but this one's going to be solid, at least in this part of it. And then I'm going to come back in and do the flowers slightly darker like I did on this one. I like the effect of, I used the same golds and greens that I had used in this on these flowers, and I really like the effect of that. So I will start that, and work my way around and bring it right back to show it to you. Okay, so there we are with the gold all finished, and I like it. I like the way that the gold and the silver work with all of the bright colors that we've got going on in the inside. So now really all that's left to do is to just keep bumping up my contrasts. And so I'm going to, I out here in the frame, I've been doing a little bit of that. I got my white pencil out of my Deli pencil set, and I pretty much just added just a little white highlight along where I thought the lightest part of the silver would be. Now it doesn't show up a lot, but it does show up enough to make a difference. Now, of course, the other option would be to use something like a white Posca, or in my case, a white Uniball, and do something like this. Put a little, I guess I need to get that going, don't I? There we go. Put a little white highlight in like that. And then I always sort of tap them down with my finger. This one's going to be stubborn. Don't be stubborn. I thought I had cleaned this out. This one's brand new, so it should be working. I never know what's on those notepads, so I don't I don't want to inadvertently show you. And this also is a nice way to do it. So you can just add a little bit of, a little bit of highlight in there. And once again, I just brush it down with the end of my finger. So you can do it all kinds of different ways to just add that little bit of extra shine to your shiny metallic objects. I think this works if you only do one little part at a time. There we go. So you can do it like that. Now I probably won't do it on the gold, although I may. But otherwise, I also took the black, and on this one I used the white pencil, but I also used just a tad of the black around the edges. And so I'll do the same thing on this one so that you can see it better. And so I really just, with hardly any pressure at all, and I'm probably the only one who even knows that the enhancement is there. But it always makes me feel a little better when I know that my lights are light and my darks are dark. Doesn't have to be very much. Just enough And you would do that and continue all the way around with all of the flowers. Yeah, I think I'm really liking the way that that white uniball looks on that one. So I may do it that way as opposed to the pencil. But we shall see, because I also like the way this one looks. Then I was also going to use the white uniball to take out this white line around the moon. And I need you to work. This is I bought a 3-pack of them. I used up the first one. So while I've had the pen for a couple of months, or for a few months, probably, I probably had this one for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months sitting in the drawer. But it's never been used. So it should be full. And that adds a little bit more glow to the moon as well. I don't have to take it all the way out, but just enough to make a difference. You can still see it. There we go. All right. Yeah, I like that. So it just dulled down the the edge of that moon. Hello, searching for my words. Now I also like the fact that my dragon is a blonde. I don't usually blonde is not my choice in men, but it is works fine on dragons, and I've always liked either jet black hair or ginger. Either one is muy bueno in my book. This is the golden yellow, and that is not the one I want for my little guy here. I think I want the Sicilian yellow for his little blonde hairs, little blonde whiskers. Might as well make them gold. Kind of helps to marry him to this extra edge as well. So I'm going to just add that with the Inktense. And also I want his horns to be gold. So I am going to leave a white moon glow, or a light moon glow there at the top. And make these more of a golden color. So now we're sort of at the point where everything in the coloring, this particular project, is going to be about the little details. But in your own coloring, you can stop right here if you are happy with it, in whatever way that you colored it. You can certainly do that. I like to, once again, bump my contrasts always. So make my lights very light, my darks very dark. And in the places where I've got the color down already, I can make the color appear lighter by darkening the colors around it. And the other thing that I was going to do is, well, actually I wanted to do two things. I wanted to do his eye, And so I have got what I think is a very pretty iris blue. And I'm going to just very, very lightly color in his eye. And I'm even going over the pupil because I'm going to put that back in with the Uniball. Now I like that lighter color. I'm going to have to wait on the Uniball until that's dry. But I am going to bump the mallard green in his chest just a little bit. And also because I missed that part under his chin, and that has been bothering me as I've sat here and looked at this. Now this is, of course, it's been sitting on my desk all week as I am working on it, and I do apologize that it's taken me so long to finish it. It was the same deal with last week's video, last week's pre-record. I've had a lot of things that I've been dealing with that don't have to do with coloring or my art, so I apologize that that has been taking some of my time. So I'm just working that down very much the way that I did the first time. I'm going to wet, and then I'm going to go into this part and just sort of bring it down very lightly. Wet the lightest side, then go up to your color. That way you can bring just a tiny bit down and then activate the rest of it up there in place. And hopefully if you do it that way, which is the same method that I used on these flowers, it'll keep it from getting too dark down here where you're trying to keep it light. Or where I'm trying to keep it light. So this is just, all that's really left to do on this is add a little color to the gold flowers here in the edge, and then just keep working my colors in the dragon body. Just sort of deepening it up, just like you would with pencils, if you were coloring with colored pencils. This is the method that I've applied to the Inktense. Just getting success, building the color, building the colors up is what I want to say. Easy for you to say. Building the colors up. And hopefully you've seen the 30-second promo spot that I put up last night about the weekend buy one get one sale. So that's going on in my Etsy shop. And of course I will be streaming on Sunday. Today is currently Saturday the 17th. And I am due to stream at 2 o'clock on the 18th on Sunday. Depending upon how long this video is, it'll either post sometime tomorrow, Sunday, in addition to my live stream, or it'll post on Monday and be the follow-up from the previous Sunday. Not the past Sunday, but the previous past Sunday. Alright, now I'm also going to bump the color a little bit of the mallard green in the fins or the spike. And I'm only going to do the lower portion of each one. And that'll be so that I can pull the color up into the one ahead of it. So now I'm going to start at the top with the part I didn't put color on just now. Go down, grab some color, and hopefully smooth out that blend. And the idea is to give these guys, these little spikes or spines, a little bit of a ripple effect. Oops, I got just a touch in his gold horn. I can live with that. And there. And of course I probably should add a little bit of the gold, although I don't know that it's really necessary, to the, what was I using, the Sicilian yellow? This one. To the little spikettes there on his frame as well. Or on his, why do I have such, I want to call it a bin. But it's not a bin, it's a spine. And I'm also going to add it, even though I'm going to use glitter, on the end claws. Just because oftentimes when you put down glitter gel pen, it doesn't cover all the way, and so I like to have a little colored something underneath it to compensate for that. Okay, and then the last one is just a teensy weensy little one down there. So just all your tiny little details. I've got the, let's see, what colors did I get out? These are that's the spring green and the felt green, and we already used those, and we used the mallard green, and I am also going to just add the tiniest bit of the mallard green out there on the outside of his eye, even though the rest of it is the lighter blue. And we'll see if that's okay. And what I wanted to do is bump up the darkness of the darkest parts of our little guy. So let me put my, and I did not put them back in the right place. What I want is I think, when in doubt, double check your swatch book. I want the iron green. So I've got the wrong one. I want the iron green, and the reason is that it is the darkest of the blue greens. So still to the blue side of green, the Ionian green is the darkest of the yellow greens. So I'm going with the dark blue green for the darkest areas. Once again, this place down here where this little guy is sitting would be in deep, deep shadow. up the back of his leg. Also, I want to add just a little bit of darkness on these scales. Not only, and I'm also going to color correct that because, well, actually, I screwed that up, didn't I? Yes, I did. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Give me back my light, please. Give me back my light. Okay, there it is. Just like that. There's the light back. I'm probably overthinking this, but our little guy has a spine. The spine gets, goes down his back. I've got the moonlight hitting the top of his thigh, but I've also got it, which I think is okay, because the moon could be coming in underneath his wing, but I've also got it on his shoulder. And it shouldn't be on his shoulder because both his head and his fin, or his spine, are blocking that moonlight from that particular spot. And so that's one of those little things that has been bothering me. So I'm going to add a little of this darkest green over that as well, and along this side, because this is the side that is furthest from the moon, as is this side. See what I mean about, thinking about how light works and how light hits things is one of the keys to making our coloring work better. And and you just, when you look at something, it's easy to figure out where would the light actually be hitting it, and what areas would be lighter. Like, for instance, this area right here is also further away and on the opposite side of him, so it also would have a darker cast to it. Because this is up sort of closer to the sky, it would be darker over here, but I think that all I really want to do is just put a little hint of color in there to darken up those scales. And I could do this with a pencil as well, as opposed to, with a wax pencil or a oil-based pencil. The fact that I'm doing it with the Inktense, I may live to regret, but also this part of his tail is far away from the moonlight. And so this is what I mean about bumping your, now you're going to bump your contrasts up. Put your shadows in. And give it a bit more dimension. Because that is what that does, is it gives it dimension. Now this also would be somewhat darker. All the places where I actually put in bins. I am not going to, or scales, I'm not going to put any on this front side, even though his wing is up there. I may darken it up a little bit with a less dark color than this. But I am going to put it in close to where his leg is sticking out from his body. And along this leg as well, the inside of this leg can also be a little bit darker. His wings are, you know, they've got the whole idea of the wings is that they've got lots of light hitting them. So I don't want to make them too dark, but I can just bump the darkness a bit in these lower sections. And even if I don't activate these, which that's not going to happen, because why use Inktense if you don't activate it? Now see how much different that looks than this side. It's not that big a difference, but the contrasts are better. So again, lighter, darker on this side because it's away from the moon. And then just a little bit darker. And I'm keeping this one fairly narrow, so, and right along the line, so that I don't obliterate the color melds and blends that I've already done there. So this one you don't want to, you know, you're not going to be spreading this one around or feathering it out. You're just going to just have it be very light. And I'm just going to use the darkest down here on this one side. So hopefully that shows you how I've colored this particular dragon. And, oh, I still need to do those, don't I? I just want to show you that real quickly. The I'm going to use the burnt orange because I also want to keep it fairly dark. And subtle, like, whoops, like, this is the last time before it goes in the round pile, like these. And I also learned that I don't want it to go that far up as like I did in that other one. So I'm just going to use it very sparingly on just these. Letting the whole thing light. And then going down and dabbing off. I just want to work that just a tiny bit into this. The whole idea is to make this petal just a little bit different in color than the stem, but not completely different. because it's supposed to be metal. So you can oxidize metal to look any color you want, which is how you get rose gold and okay, and then I can add, with extra pigment, I can add just a little bit there. So that is all there is to that. The other thing I did want to do is I am going to be bringing in, so I'm going to continue on with this bumping up contrast, but I also want to show you, because I can bump it around those. What I was going to do is take this pretty green pen, because I happen to know that in my swatch book, the pretty green pen is actually a pretty blue-green pen. So these are the paint markers, the Zier glitter paint markers that I have come to love. You do have to shake them up though. And I'm going to use these as just a spot of color, like a jewel, in the center of each of these pewter silver flowers. And also in the little dots to jewel up the golds. Oops. Now, of course, since it dries silver, you can hardly see it from that angle. And I'm awfully close up. But you can get the general idea. Boy, it really helps when I turn that away from the glare, doesn't it? I'm going to have to look at lights. So, this is my little moon gazer dragon. Once again, he is available in my Etsy shop. I hope that you have enjoyed coloring him, or will enjoy coloring him. I hope that you've enjoyed learning the little bit about the methods that I've used coloring him. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow on Sunday. And until we meet again, please color something pretty. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.